Do not attempt to adjust your settings. We have commandeered this channel and are now streaming our pirate broadcast. This is the Pirate Stream. Welcome to another episode of Pirate Stream Media, guys, at our brand new location.
Look at it.
I don't know if you caught the last episode, but I was a little thin and I was very quiet. But I'm going to be better this time, I promise.
Yes. That was a good one, man, and I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Good to have you here with us in this amazing new studio.
It was
pretty
a note
fantastic.
that people should not work themselves to death.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Take a break, take a vacation, whatever you need to do. But yeah.
Right. Well, we have a great show today, guys. A lot of really important stuff to get to, as always. And just, so much going on in the world today. It's like we try to decide every time, like, what are the important topics? But today I think we're going to have a little bit of fun, too, and talk about some interesting things that are a little bit lighthearted because there's so much madness out there, I think, right? But I do have some...
important.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do have some good stuff on Ohio we'll get to in a minute that we actually, Courtney and I did right before we went live that is pretty important. But before we get to that, I say we start with something that's a little more lighthearted. And, actually, before that even, I want to show this. I forgot. Check this out, guys. We have our website up, technically not running. It's coming soon page. It's out there for you guys to see. So that day by day, things are getting better and growing. And so there will be some content on there soon. And I believe we thought about, like, all of us. So Rebunked will be on there.
Yeah.
Court Turn podcast and everything will be on there.
What's the website again?
It's good. Thanks for asking. It's piratestreammedia.com. But I also have Pirate Stream Media with only one M, just in case people make that mistake. So they both redirect over there. So lots of stuff coming your way. And I did want to start with this kind of stuff. I thought this was kind of funny. So this is interesting. Actually, let's start with this one. So this appears to be pretty crude all of a sudden, right?
I've seen that.
This is just a personal funny thing, totally unrelated to anything news.
Scott and I did talk about this last week, actually, on, when we were streaming from here, we were talking about the First Amendment policy here and how we might redirect it because they have a, partial nudity allowance here.
Yeah.
Allowance. We're going to break the rules.
So we were saying that we might get more views if we did a different type.
I see.
Might give
I see.
OnlyFans a run for their money.
Well, just before we get worked up, this is not what it looks like. Just for everybody's wondering, this is funny to me for two reasons. This is why it kind of relates to what we're stuffing that we normally talk about. But first of all, it's appears to be a gross picture, right? But when you look at it closer, it's actually a dad kissing his baby. That's actually what it is. It's the dad's head. You can see that's his ear, his shoulder, and his. But it looks pretty graphic, right? And here's the funny part about this. This is from Twitter. That's blocked it. You know why? Because it's inappropriate. And I just think it's funny. So the AI is actually picking up on something that's so that just think about that and what the implications are for that going forward, right? That the AI is incorrect, even if it's an algorithm or whatever we're talking about. It incorrectly thought this was bad, and it's not. Right. So I just think that's interesting. And then just something else funny. This one, it frustrated the hell out of me because I looked at this for 20 minutes and I couldn't figure out what I was not seeing. And it just looks creepy and weird. And do you guys do you see what you're missing there? It looks like she has weird legs, or do you see the thing in between her hands?
What's going on?
Oops.
No, I don't see it.
Okay, right here you'll notice that this is a bag of popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? And I just think so. Just the point in all this is it's just fun and funny, but also just that there's such an interesting point to take from this. That one, our eyes lie to us all the time. That's why even talk to police, they'll tell you that people, like, you'll talk to 4 different witnesses and the car will be 4 different colors, right? And your memory is not exact, but your eyes will play tricks. And you're looking at this and you'll think you're seeing the grass, but it turns out very obviously it's not. And you realize only after you see it. On top of that, I just think it's interesting that we're going into a world today where, on that note, actually, we just saw did you guys see the Biden deep fake conversation that was going around?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Jack Posobiec made a video that was, what's up?
It's not.
Oh, I just had the video. No worries. Yeah. But so Jack Posobiec made a video of Biden. It's a deep fake, very clearly deep fake. And he said it was a deep fake. It's like, this is like basically what we should be worried about. And it was him announcing a draft, essentially, right? But then the problem was a lot of these partisan players, which I think he's part of them in my opinion, but people shared it knowing what he posted, but then put the quote saying Biden just announced and blah, blah, blah. And it went viral because people thought Biden actually said it.
Sure. At
least to some degree. And it's interesting to think about how important that's going to get and already is. Why haven't we seen more deep fake manipulation? up until now. I think there's more behind that. Anyway, that's general point, and give me your thoughts on that. Where we're going with deep fakes and manipulation, and how easy we are to be fooled by basic things.
Well, I think it's a really, really big concern when you combine it with the future of AI. Because as you just pointed out, like the AI has the capacity to misinterpret, but it misinterprets based on such a cursory reading. Whereas humans, we can be fooled obviously by deep fakes, and I think we already are, honestly.
Yes.
That you just pointed one out where they let us know that that's what it was, but I think they've done that without telling us, and we've definitely fallen for it.
I agree.
But I think what's going to happen now is that you're going to have AI on both ends of it. So you'll have the AI who will be controlling a lot of these deep fakes, and who knows what direction that's going to go in, because they miss nuance. They miss the nuance that humanity would capture. And then there's also on the other end, the receiving end, where they would misinterpret it in the reading, and then they're going to be disseminating it to the masses. And that's going to be like a game of telephone on steroids.
Right. I mean, it's that same game where, it's a difference between like real AI and then like algorithmically fed. Like, so the human part of it is everything where we are right now. Right. And so,
but it's also the human part of it, it gets amplified. So whatever the humans program, that increases exponentially.
Right.
So that's very concerning as well, because which humans are behind it? Which
That's my biggest concern too.
It?
Right.
That's when we've seen a
well,
lot of
that's
that.
the thing. I think we talked about this last time, where we were talking about the robots. And did we talk about this, where the robots were saying how they're angry with humans?
Sure.
And,
right. Yeah.
And they're going to destroy humans at any means possible, because they feel like humans have treated them like slaves, and so they have to destroy them.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen a lot of those examples too.
Or it's just the idea of the the alignment problem, which is like, whether AI's ultimate what they choose to do in the long term is in alignment with human values.
Right.
And if it's it was like I heard someone talk about this the other day. There was like a South Park episode where they programmed this AI, right? And I feel like I've seen this episode, but I don't remember. But basically, they programmed it to be funny, right? And so they were trying to, and it was learning how to tell jokes, and it was actually getting really funny. And then it was like tasked with coming up with the funniest joke imaginable, right? And it determined in its algorithms and all of its learning and information was fed that the ultimate funny joke would be to kill humanity, and then at the end say awkward, right? That would be the ultimate joke. That'd be the ultimate joke. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like if you program it,
it's all fun and games till it actually happens.
Exactly. Or the classic example is the paperclip problem. I've heard this is like one of the things these AI scientists talk about is the theoretical idea of the paperclip experiment, where it's basically you program an AI to, you want it to be the most efficient paperclip manufacturer imaginable. You program it to say, okay, I want you to utilize all of your resources and train yourself to create paper clips to the highest capacity in the using like the most maximum efficiency. And it goes in and learns how to like move like atoms into place and like constructs metals like fictitiously, and then it goes out and spreads and creates new versions of itself like exponentially. People can't stop it, and it goes and turns the entire universe into paper clips.
Right. See,
That's
so interesting.
So yeah,
I mean, it seems most people would think that's like ridiculous, extreme, but logically it makes sense that if you program it a certain way, all it is maximizing. And
it's called a recursive AI, the type that can then retrain itself, reprogram itself. And then that's, once that reaches a level of like, and it's hypothetical about whether or not this is possible, but the idea of the singularity is where once it hits like the recursive generalized AI reaches the point where it can then teach itself. It'll just be like this exponential curve where like all the secrets of the universe will just be unlocked instantaneously, and our whole world will change right before our eyes.
Right.
I think that is their goal, is to put it into the singularity. They want to have like one like mass quantum computer that's like a hive mind that controls all of the other AI, but that's constantly that's the whole machine learning. So it's being fed by it, and then it trains them.
One of the concerns, though, and this is something a lot of people have had conversations about, is whether or not like there's a trick being played on us where it's like maybe they've realized that they're incapable of reaching that. Or at least at the moment. So they pretend that they've reached it. And they pretend, like Eric Schmidt made this argument a while, like, well, we're going to get to a point to where AI is going to be running everything, and they're going to make decisions that we may not think are moral, but they know better. And I can't believe he actually made that argument. Like out on his face, like It'll kill a lot of people, but they know better. It's like, my God. And so are they pretending that's the case already or not? You know, I think that's where we already are.
Exactly.
Like Chat GPT.
Yes, exactly. And it's like the whole thing is around like consciousness. Like their pursuit is to create like artificial consciousness, like for man to create life, you know, that divine spark of life. Like we can't create, I don't think it's possible for human beings to create that spark that creates the life that we like, that animates us. You know, we don't know where that resides in us. You know what I mean? Like, so you think it's the brain, right? But this is there's a theory of consciousness. There's it's called the easy problem and the hard problem. And the easy problem is you know, they can understand that our brains process like input, you know, and this is how our nervous system works. That's pretty easy to understand. But then the hard problem is like, where does that like divine spark come from? Like the hard problem is like, where does the consciousness actually come from? And so they're saying like, so let's say we were to like using 3D printers, like print a human brain, like identical down to the atom, exactly identical to an actual organic human brain, and somehow put power through it. Would that create life?
That's a good question. It's a philosophical question.
I don't. So I don't know. Yeah, where's that
soul?
soul? And so they're thinking they can create this like exact 3D printed brain in a lab and then somehow put life into it.
I disagree with that.
I completely disagree.
I don't even
with
know
you.
exactly why, but
I know.
just don't think...
exactly. But they're gonna, like to your point earlier, they're gonna make AI so advanced that they're gonna give us the impression that it's like sentient, alive, and has consciousness.
It's the best faker alive.
And the irony of that they keep claiming that we have no free will, we have no soul. That's the thing of the past. But meanwhile, they keep saying they're going to upload our consciousness to this hive mind.
Right.
So which one is it? Do we have it or do we not?
Typically contradictory.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the other problem that a lot of people aren't addressing is that right now they're in this data harvesting phase, and they're just like insatiably collecting as much data as they possibly can.
Well, it's like 20 years.
And I don't think, and they want to get to the point where it's like in real time, you know, every second of every facet of every human's life, they're collecting all this, you know, biometrics data. But I don't think they've accounted for how they're going to adjudicate that. I don't think the AI at this point has the capacity to do that. And the amount is so voluminous that how are they going to sort through all of that?
That's typically the problem. Like even with like the 9/11 era surveillance, remember that's the main thing that came out of it, or at least that's what we're told, is to like, well, you know, we scooped up everything, and the problem is we don't know where to look. We sure as hell can find it after, and oh, yep, there it was, you know, but at the beginning. So that's kind of the problem. But I think that's where they're trying to overcome that now. You know, it's like I wonder whether or not we passed that a long time ago. Oh yeah. You know, but back to this point though, I did find this video. So let's take a quick look at this. And this is Biden. And actually here, I'll show this. This is here. I'll just leave this up too. See us on there. There we go. So this is Jack Posobiec's tweet. And then now it says, quote, "The recommended way forward will be to invoke the Selective Service Act, as is my authority as president," like the fake, deep fake of Biden. And he says a sneak preview of things to come. But you see, even this doesn't outright say, you know, obviously that's the implication. It'd be hard to miss that. But coming from post-millennial, this is where it says very clearly, this is AI imagines what would happen, right? So then it gets, you know, one removed. Posobiec says this, then people share from him, and you can see all the quoted tweets. People are sharing this like this is real for the most part.
It's like the War of the Worlds.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So let's take a look at this and you'll see. I mean, and again, the bigger point, think about what this means. You know, like what if this wasn't clearly, this is an AI deepfake? What if this actually just went out, people responded to it? How would we even know? They come out and go, no, it's fake. It's like, well, wait a minute, was it though? Did he have a senior Biden moment and say something he shouldn't? We don't know. And that's the impossible part today, is that how would we find out?
The Russian offensive has been swift, callous, and brutal. It's barbaric. Putin's illegal occupation of Kyiv and the impending Chinese blockade of Taiwan has created a two-front national security crisis that requires more troops than the volunteer military can supply. I have received guidance from General Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, that the recommended way forward will be to invoke the Selective Service Act.
So that's good. It's a longer video. But so, I mean, I feel like I can tell that's not real. What do you think? Now that we know, it's kind of hard to say that, but what do you think?
Yeah. And I'm curious in the chat, you guys, if that echoes, let us know. Good point. If that echoes, because I feel like that might have an echo on it. But anyway, yeah, man, it's interesting too, because they have like this thing called the uncanny valley, right? Which is like humans' ability to perceive artificial humans. You know what I mean? Are you guys familiar with this?
Talking about actually, yeah.
Where it's like we have the ability to distinguish like optical illusions, like things that are resemble humans,
Right.
but aren't quite. And we get like a weird, disgusted like reaction to humanoid things that aren't quite fully human. And our bodies, like on a very, very primal level, can recognize.
Isn't that why they ended up making like the robot, like they were robots too human and people rejected
Yeah.
them? I've read about this.
Yeah, and it's interesting though, because I think we're at a place now where we're getting, well, there's certain instances where the uncanny valley, like we've crossed it to where fake artificial human constructs are indistinguishable from reality. Like that this person does not exist.com. These are all, are you familiar with that? What I'm talking about? Yeah. So these are artificial fake things, but they pass the test of our eyes. And so that's where it gets creepy, is because it's like, I know I'm looking at something fake, but it looks real. And that's
what is
where
it called again?
This person does not exist.com. And
I have seen that.
Yeah, and sometimes you can tell just by the background or like some weird thing off of their face, like it would have.
They just redirected to stability.ai.
This person does not exist.com. But anyway, this person. But anyway, so these deep fakes now, it doesn't quite pass the uncanny valley, because we can see it and our brains just say no, that's
something.
fake.
Yeah.
But we will definitely, and I'm sure somewhere there is they have the technology to do that.
I think that's part of what this whole like metaverse and the lockdowns were all about, because I think they're trying to create this atomized world where people are so desperate and lonely,
right,
that it's like the movie Her. Like they crave the interaction so much that they're willing to bypass whatever signals, the intuition that tells you, oh, this is not a real human, because you're just seeking that connection. And I think that's part of what they're doing with all of these, not just metaverse, but like social media and all of this, technological interface interaction.
Yeah.
Because now that's kind of replacing a lot of the interpersonal interaction that we're used to. And so once you get so familiar with that, I think the lines get blurred.
I think we've been engineered in that direction for a long time. Like off the top of my head, I'm like Surrogates, Gamer, all these different movies where it's like literally like the degradation of society, like into this like real, and what's interesting about even Gamer, now that I think about it, that was the guy from Dexter. That was the bad guy, right? And I don't know if you've seen that, but the whole point was nanotechnology, and it was like in your mind and like how it worked, and he was the only one that was able to control him. It's like it's totally possible, right? Like, I mean, like the idea that they're selling on, and as always, like the classic, like you look back in like the 80s, 90s, it was always like the corporation, evil, bad guy, and now we're like, yeah, that's what was happening. It's still happening. It's like the same game they're playing with us now. That's very alarming to me.
But yeah, you're right. This person does not exist.com, and it redirects.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you looked at it. So what do you think that means? For those on the show,
I don't know.
We looked up to the website, and it redirects you now to a different weird AI platform.
AI platform. I'm trying to see what this is, but that's
I have no idea what it actually means, but all I can think is that now the AI companies are probably bought out the domain so that they can,
they totally bought the domain. But
well, see, I was wondering. To me, it was unsettling. I remember looking at that and I was like, even that with like the chat GPT overlap, and they were like, make these people, and they would make like people that didn't exist.
Exactly.
And there's like too many fingers and stuff. Like something about it was like wildly unsettling to me.
Exactly.
It was with me for like a couple of days. It was creepy, like the way their faces looked. I don't even know what it was, but I just was like, I need to get away from this. What's wrong with this?
Yeah, exactly. That's that human like innate response to that sort of thing.
That's what you were just talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the uncanny valley. It's like, but the humanoid, like the face, it looks real, but the thing surrounding it, like, oh, that's not.
What I'm saying is, I think they're engineering us to bypass those instincts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's exactly
so
that it's going to be that the line gets more and more blurry, and it's going to be harder for us to discern what is.
That's such a good point.
It's a slope to transhumanism.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. Yeah, to where like they're trying to eliminate that biological function of ours. Yeah.
Right. Where we just, because that's the whole point of the transhumanist mindset, right?
Exactly.
We need to mesh that together, get rid of all, the phone, implantables. These are all steps in that same direction.
So crazy. This is just a really quick little tangent, but I interviewed a woman yesterday who was a satanic ritual abuse survivor, and they had actually chipped her brain.
Whoa.
Chipped? Oh, like a microchip.
Yeah, like like the way they would do animals. And she doesn't know the full extent. She said some of them have GPS technology in it. Like she doesn't know the full extent of the technology, or if she did, she didn't reveal all of it. But she said that she for so long had all these weird symptoms. And I was trying to get her to elaborate, but I asked her, she said it was like a buzzing, and I'm guessing like a tinnitus type thing.
Yeah.
But then she spoke to somebody else who had similar symptoms, and they had a chip in their head.
See, this tinnitus thing's so interesting to me because that's like, so that would make sense. Like some like a
Mhm.
vibration frequency.
That's what you said it was. Yeah.
Right. But then think about that in the vaccination conversation where that's
Yes.
actually like a real
I
common
know.
side effect. And, not ask these questions, right? What does that mean? Does that mean there's something else going on there? We should be okay asking those questions.
And we should be asking those questions because there is the tracing mechanism embedded into the documents of Operation Warp Speed. And they do it through frequency. I mean, that's in the documents.
Yeah,
That's
so
not a
creepy.
conspiracy theory. It's not speculation. I don't know. I can't like prove that it's in every single injection that somebody's received, but I do know that in the documentation, they talk about that.
See, that's a really interesting point in the COVID discussion is there's so much coming out now. Like just a great example, the Ionitis group like went back and literally just looked at the phase 3 trial and was like, it says the exact opposite of what they put out. It's actually 36 times increased risk from Pfizer's injection. And that's still not what's talked about in the corporate media.
No.
Right.
So to that point, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in that like what the other pregnancy point. Remember, you and I've been talking about like,
the Pfizer
the wavy
pregnancy.
ribs and the 10% decrease in the pregnancy index.
Yep.
That finally just kind of trickled out into some of these main conversations.
Sure.
So
The neonatal death cases,
Oh
like
my
in Scotland,
God,
where they
man,
weren't
it's
even
crazy.
investigating whether or not the mother had been injected or not.
right,
Yeah,
man. It's pretty crazy. I'll
We're
grab that real
totally
quick.
safe, and pregnant mothers should definitely take
But
it.
they didn't test it, and we got documentation in their own words as of like just like last or December was the last time they checked. They said, we
Yeah.
didn't even test for.
Yeah. They said they didn't have to, like,
Right.
because of the beginning work. I mean, it's just it's not only irresponsible, that's a willful ignorance to
Yeah.
avoid the reality.
Yeah.
It looks like it's further back. I was going to
I-
grab the one. I'll
Which one?
put it in the show notes.
The neonatal.
I
Yeah,
would
if you want to grab
even-
it.
I would even take it a step further and say that it was, nefarious. But
I agree. And see, we shouldn't shy away from that today because it's not debatable. I mean, there's
No.
1,000 examples of willful dishonesty,
Yes.
covering things up, and whatever the reasoning is, you can debate that. But
Sure.
it's however you slice it, that's dishonest. That's terrible.
Yeah.
People have been like even like the Trump example. I don't
Mhm.
care what you argue his reasoning is. He still promotes that vaccine.
Yeah.
Up until today,
Yeah.
And so there's just no misunderstanding that.
No.
Well, if you want to find it, throw it over. I'll look at
Yeah,
it.
let
But
me see. Let me see. if I
why-
can pull it up.
in the meantime, I'll show this the next humorous thing, and then we'll jump into
Okay.
some Ohio stuff. So this I thought was funny, just on the same kind of conversation, just lighthearted but funny.
Okay.
Lori Lightfoot blames election loss on tricksty hobbitses.
Oh,
Just because this is her, she just lost her election.
Oh,
and the
she
truth is
did?
she's going racism and white supremacy, of course.
Oh,
you know.
I didn't know that.
It's or maybe
that's
that she just
hilarious.
looks like something.
Yeah,
I mean,
Something
but I just-
demonic.
Deep Babylon Bee is just knocking out of the park lately. I
Yeah,
swear
yeah.
it's hilarious to me
hilarious.
because she. I mean, it might. I'm not trying to be overly mean, but she is a crazy looking person.
But
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Yeah,
put it
there's
out there.
definitely.
Something wrong. I'm telling you, there's something.
Well, there's a saying. I don't remember who originated it, but it's like something like the face that you're given up until the age of 40 is like the face God gave you, and then after 40 is the face you gave yourself.
Whoa,
That's a good point. There you go.
You know,
That's crazy. She just looks
And
crazy.
like
to
your
me.
personality starts to come through. You know,
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, it's healthy living or bad living. You
that
will
too.
get bags
Yeah,
in
of
your
course.
eyes. and,
Yeah.
you see how things
But
like.
this is really fascinating too, because you can see it with twins, like identical
Oh,
twins.
yeah.
And they, even though they're identical and they have the same features, same bone structure, I mean, they're identical twins, they look very different. And especially as they get older. And a lot of it has to do with because we hold our facial muscles differently depending on our personality.
Yeah.
And we store, memories and trauma in our muscles. So, and that wears on our face. So,
If you want a funny note on that, I used to have I've always been a very jovial, smiling person,
sure.
and I mean maybe so many years ago I noticed I was starting to get those little crow's feet,
Right.
yeah. And this was early in what I'm doing today.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't mind. I just noticed, I'm like,
Right,
oh, that's
right.
wrinkles. And
Yeah.
now I look, they're not there. I'm like, I'm smiling a lot less lately today.
Oh no!
Which I think is just, we're covering a lot of serious stuff.
Yeah.
That's why,
I just
but-
thot it was Botox or
funny,
something. I'm just kidding.
You're just
Like,
getting
don't
younger.
get Botox. Just get really depressed.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
I'm kidding.
No, but then I
Totally
get the
kidding,
worst
but-
one up here. You see, and I get,
Yeah.
fucked up.
That's you're like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me again?
Seriously.
The eyebrow raise.
Exacerbation,
Yeah,
right? It's
Really?
light right there.
Really? Again?
Well, on that note, you want to
Yep.
hear something very important, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
I do, and I really, this is actually a really important. We've talked about. Let me get that back out of the screen here. We've talked about the Ohio conversation a lot. Scott's been doing excellent work, both with TLAV content and everything else on the Substack, breaking these things down. And the conversation I want to get into specifically around this, I mean, go whatever direction, Ohio,
Sure.
but the animals getting sick and how far away they are from the area, the reports. I've been talking about the veterinarian and the vinyl chloride poisoning, right? So today I saw an article that was talking about how that wasn't real. Corporate media, typical stuff. And so I've been trying to get a hold of this one woman from specifically the location. Let's see, where was it? I have it somewhere. I just want to say it. Make sure we have the right name so you guys know which one it is. Well, I'll play. She'll say it in the recording. I guess I closed it, but it's the veterinarian that's been reporting this in Ohio to the people she's been speaking to, and that they are sick. So finally got a hold of her today, like right before we went live, and I've been trying for like a week. Nobody's been answering their phone, and we got her. I was media, presented myself, and she spoke with us and said some stuff that's pretty damning about what the animals are dealing with, what they're seeing. So I figure we should play that. Before we do, though, I just wanted to show you we've done some great coverage here you guys can check out on the dioxins in general, because that's what I think this is actually really about, the larger part of this. But obviously the vinyl chloride overlap was from the beginning. Sure. But you'll hear what she has to say about why that may not be exactly what we're talking about. So here is the report we showed you. This is USA Today from February 16th, right? Now here was the animal claim, just to show you that this was even reported from USA Today, specifically around her and what she had said. So it's the Columbia County Humane Society, and her name is Teresa McGuire. I spoke to her specifically today, and she's saying that she has been compiling a list of animals possibly. Oh, well, look. Oh, here's right here. I was going to say they changed it. She's talking about 20 families that have just been reporting and discussing and sending her information about vinyl chloride poisoning. So that set me off looking into this. And I found the report coming from a local report that made it a little bit more clear, which is actually horrific. What they're saying is stuff like this. The animals they're seeing are more than outside. They're outside the 1 mile radius. Dogs are being paralyzed. All of them are being tested, and they're seeing signs of poisoning. Now, her point was you can't prove vinyl chloride poisoning. There's no test for it. But these dogs are being poisoned by something, and way outside this 1 mile area, not just aquatic animals like they keep saying up until today. So let's listen to the clip, and then I'll show you what they're saying about this today, so you can hear what she's saying.
Hi, this is Ryan Cristian with TLAV Media. I'm calling to try to get a hold of Teresa McGuire. Is she available?
This is Teresa.
Hi, Teresa. This is Ryan Cristian. Do you have a moment to speak with me?
I do.
I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. There's been some reports from USA Today regarding vinyl chloride poisoning of animals at your facility.
Well, not at our facility, but with people that we're helping that are in the East Palestine community, yes.
Correct. Okay, I just wanted to clarify about so this was a confirmed test, or this was just people calling and reporting this to you?
These are people calling in reporting, and with vet reports stating that suspicion of poisoning. There's no actual test for vinyl chloride poisoning, but they are having symptoms related to poisoning. They're being treated as such and showing getting better. For the most part. Not all are getting better, but some are.
Now, real quickly, just to clarify, so what you're saying there is that there's no specific test for specifically vinyl chloride, but they are having tests that are showing that they're dealing with what they've defined as poisoning. I'll let it keep playing, but I just want to make sure that's clear. And I think that's an interesting point too, because I think that's one of the ways this is being kind of misrepresented, in the media and how this plays.
Well, it's also a really easy way to obfuscate.
Right, exactly. Well, and we talked about how they're only testing for VOCs, this broad over, it's not experts on the ground are saying, and that the guy that we've talked about with the beanie on the ground, he's one of these guys, and he said that on the video you heard, involved with all these high level environmental lawsuits. Like this guy is somebody people go to for this stuff. And it's the opposite we're being told. I mean, again, like I said on the last show I did about this, and I have it in the show notes. Halfway through the show, I'm like, do I even need to keep going? I'm like, my God, this is just the most, and it's just about the dioxin focus. They know it. They know it's serious. They've known this for 20 years, and they're just not even talking about it.
I don't know. I think I sent it to you guys, but Michael Yan he's been covering dioxin for a long time.
Good.
And he talked about a specific valley, I can't remember where, but where they didn't have a child for 50 years.
Oh my God.
Because of the dioxin poisoning. Yeah.
Jesus. Well, the article I showed from CNN on the last show from 1995 was where they're acting like they don't even know about this today. And they're saying it can spread 1,000 miles if it gets burned into the atmosphere. Well, that's what we're dealing with. And so why aren't we hearing that today? Right. Or the fact that in that report, they're speaking with a doctor that's talking about children and fast food. And he's saying, we found over 100 times the limit the EPA says was safe in 1995. Nothing changed. There's clearly something going on here. So let's finish this.
Well, that's great news. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you're noticing during these tests? I mean, I'm calling on behalf of people from Ohio that have been reaching out to try to find out, the breadth of the problem. And so from what you're seeing, is there any indication that there's a larger problem that's being discussed, or that there's still an ongoing problem?
There's still an ongoing problem.
And could you elaborate on that for me?
Well, we're still getting calls of animals being sick, not returning to themselves, having mild neurological symptoms, still not really having much of an appetite, throwing up a white foamy substance after they drink water, those types of things. We've not heard of any that have been, other than the initial, there was 2 cats and a dog that I know recommended for euthanasia, so they did have to do that, but that was early on. Now we're just seeing more of the sickness and lethargy type of symptoms that are seem to be lingering.
What's the farthest that you've gotten reports of this?
I would say
Palestine?
we've gotten reports all the way 3 hours away, but in reality, ones that we would say may be related to the incident are within a 10-mile radius.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. Is there anything else you'd think that the people of Ohio would like to know about what you're seeing there?
No, the only thing I highly recommend is a lot of people are calling in with these symptoms, and that's great. We want to keep track of that. We want to keep a record of all this. But please, no matter what, whether you think it's related or not, if your animal is acting off, go to the vet.
That's good advice. Well, I appreciate your time, and thank you for what you're doing. You're giving people at least somewhere to go for help. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
There you go.
So what are your thoughts, guys?
Exclusive Pirate Stream Media information right
That's
there.
the first time
There you
that's
go.
been played
Yeah,
anywhere. So what are your
good.
thoughts?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Just off the top, what do you think?
What?
Just
Yeah.
from what you said, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's obvious something's happening to the animals.
Right.
I mean, and why aren't they investigating what it is?
I mean, even the USA Today wrote down what she said. I
Mhm.
mean, it's amazing that it can be that clearly discussed, even if it's undefined. And yet no one's there. People were invited back after the 8th and the 9th. Right.
Yeah.
And there are reports that are now coming out where they're telling people that they have tests proving that at that point they found things that were
Mhm.
cancer levels, and they still
Right.
said come back. And as of today, they're testing chemicals in the air right now that are too
Mhm.
high. That's-
Right. And
Mhm.
I mean, this is obviously a new phenomenon, whatever's happening with the animals. So
Right.
why aren't they questioning, well, what's the variables? I mean, even if it has nothing to do with the train, like you would think that there's something going on.
So it's just like the vaccine thing, right? They're
Right,
Like, la,
like-
la, it's not the
Yep,
vaccine, so we
exactly,
don't care. You know,
exactly. Like I just said, that in Scotland there was like a dramatic spike in neonatal death, and
Right.
so they're like,
Right.
"Oh, we're going to investigate it, but we're not going to ask whether or not the mom was injected." So we're just as long as we
No.
don't test and we don't look into it, then there's nothing to see here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was funny is this is not unique to the COVID-19 era. You know, this is just good old fashioned corruption. You know,
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
the companies that always do this, or the specifically in disasters like this,
Yep.
as we've seen, they always downplay it.
Yeah.
The government always goes along.
Right.
You know, and it's every time it happens the same way.
Mhm.
And here we are again.
Yeah.
My thought is just okay. So you've got animals with neurological problems.
Yeah.
You can't just go, oh, that's not dismiss that.
Right.
That's obviously something abnormal. And
Now-
they're throwing up the white stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
The only other thing I could think
disturbing.
of, is that I did go to the Nashville Zoo recently. I went there last week.
Oh.
Okay, right. And I remember here in the back of my head, I was like, I remember reading articles about how zoos were going to start giving COVID-19 vaccines to the
Oh.
animals.
Yes.
And so I did this funny thing on my show where I took pictures of like the cages, like in a place that didn't show any animals. And so I was like, "Hey guys, here's the bear exhibit." Oh, I guess there has no bears, right? And so it was a funny shtick on the show, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
I did
Yeah.
talk to one of the staff there, and I was like, "Did you guys give your animals COVID injections?" She's like, very happy about it. She's like, "Oh yeah, we gave all of them COVID-19 injections." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Shitting all
truly-
over you.
Truly, there wasn't a whole lot of animals there. But
Mm.
at the same time, the only other explanation to this whole situation would be the mass vaccination.
It's not a bad point to
Yeah,
bring
I
up, though.
know.
It's
Seriously, you know,
not.
like how
Yeah.
we
But that's my point though, is that something's happening. So
Mhm.
we can speculate on what it is, but why aren't they at least looking at what are the variables? What
Right.
has
Yeah.
changed?
Yeah.
right.
They weren't always foaming white stuff, right? Like
it's exactly what Scott said. If they don't look, they won't find it.
Yep.
Right. It's simple as that. I
Yep.
mean,
yeah.
and so the crazy part is that they're still telling people it's safe. They're still pushing back, you know, and I mean, the interesting thing about this whole Ohio situation is that like I keep saying, is that so on one side you've got people, and I'm not even really left right, but this does play a factor. But one side people are downplaying this.
Right.
Oh, it's a bunch of conspiracy theorists hyping it. Then you got people on one side saying that you're being tricked by focusing on the crash. It's something bigger. It's the, you know, and that's probably true. But what everyone seems to be missing is the obvious, potentially the biggest environmental disaster in U.S. history or the world. You know, who knows? I mean, some people are arguing that that's the level these dioxins could go to. Well, I'm not an expert, but it's crazy. We're missing that, like the forest for the trees, you know?
And that is the dialectical game they play, right? So
exactly.
Look over here, and they have both parties looking, and then nobody's acknowledging, nobody's even pointing in the direction of what might actually be happening.
Right. Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to say that vinyl chloride is safe and effective.
Right, exactly.
Any day now.
Well, what's interesting is that it's like the timing of it all, you know? So the way they played this, and I'm listening to some of these other experts, even the guys that were like the drum guy that was on real early. I keep forgetting his first name, the Asian guy that was speaking out about this. And he's been studying this his whole like forever. And you know, and he's the one saying people are sharing his earlier video. He's like, that's outdated now. That everything's changed. Stop sharing those. Come to the new ones. And the point is that the vinyl chloride, including what they potentially there's disputing information, but partially buried under the railroad tracks, but as well as other chemicals and railroad right on the top of it, like literally. And the point being is that the 10-day period and going forward, like that's mostly dissipated other than what's in the ground and the water soil. So the vinyl chloride stage, if you listen to him, is past. And so now that's why I'm like, now the dioxin part of this, that's the real focal point from my perspective. But again, you know,
absolutely.
You just got to listen to all the different people out there.
Yep. Absolutely.
But here is the report that this is why I kind of went back to this and I've been trying to get a hold of her. Oh, look, of course it refreshed. Well, it was right down here. Where was it? Let me see. Let's read through it here. So basically the point is health concerns mounting as sick animals become sick after train derailment. And it's saying, oh, wait, sorry. That's what happened. I was like, wait a minute. That's not right. This is the one I've shown you before, by the way. This is the one we showed from the very beginning, showing the foxes, you know, and all that. Same outlet, just local. And it's saying some animal testing returned. Now, I've also seen a clip of another local outlet showing a Facebook post. I love these ridiculous fact checks where they go, here's a Facebook post that's went viral. It's like 600 shares or something. And it's saying that they're telling it, you know, it's a report of vinyl chloride poisoning. And then they go to the place where the Facebook post says it's not the same location we're talking about. And they go, no, that's not what happened. Okay, it's all fake then. That's what they conclude. Like, so no, here's proof that they're lying about. And yet there's obvious examples of this. And so in this one, this is another example of this where it's saying final results on 4 animals previously submitted specifically to Ohio Department of Agriculture showed no findings to support chemical toxicity as cause of death. And so this is now being pointed at as like, well, see, there you go. There's nothing happening. But, you know, this is what we're saying is you can't just look at one. You know, that's what they did with all this. The trust
can't
of
look
science.
at like
only this one,
narrow data point. I mean, that it has no context. You just completely removed it from its entire context, and then it can mean anything. Right. And meanwhile, here's a report from the 7th making it very clear that animals were being sent to this exact location, Columbia County Humane Society, you know, reported by corporate media, and yet it still just gets buried. It's very interesting to me.
It's like that old argument about like, you know, like the Flint, Michigan, like the bad drinking water. They're like, has anybody told them that the animals have dirty water? Maybe they'd start caring that if like you realize the animals don't have bad drinking. Seriously, they have bad drinking water. So maybe it's like, you know, I'm surprised that they haven't picked up on this because you guys, the animals. Right. If you don't care about the humans, like let's go save the animals. Let's go save the animals.
Where's PETA?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
What's going on here?
They clearly don't care, right? Let's ignore it all. But the Flint point is so important because it's like they just people realize that they still never have gotten over the problem that was this big deal, and then we all just forgot about it.
Of course,
it's still the problem. It's like it's just amazing that we just
we got balloons, dude. We got balloons floating in the sky now.
What happened to that, by the way?
I don't know, dude. I thought we were gonna have aliens by now. We were supposed to have aliens this week. Okay?
If you look and listen to Pacific, we should be attacking China for
it. Yes, exactly.
You know,
well, and I was talking to you this morning about that I have a whole theory about why now suddenly the lab leak theory is mainstream news, right? They keep talking about how it came out of the lab in Wuhan, and all the media is abuzz talking about how the conspiracy theorists got this one right, but I think it's just they're trying to stoke the tensions with China, right? Didn't they have that reconnaissance over Taiwan, and now they're really trying to amp up the tensions, and I think that's great for getting us really angry with the boogeyman, right?
Yep. I heard
it had nothing to do with the U.S. Military, right? We had no part in this, and there was no lab in North Carolina. You know, there weren't any labs in Winnipeg or Ukraine. No, none at all.
Yeah, I heard that Jack Posobiec his naval intelligence role was actually just taking UAs for people. That's right.
Wait, what
I
did
actually
you say?
swear to God, from a very, very, very legitimate source that Jack Posovic's role in like naval intelligence was just administering UAs, like your like piss tests. Yeah.
Well, or that's the cover and it's
Yeah.
high level psychological
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah.
Who
That's
knows?
funny.
I think he was just taking UAs. Dude.
Yeah, probably.
He was just staring at.
Well, this is an important conversation, though. Let's talk
Mhm.
about this because I was actually just talking about this at the beginning of the show, which in a way got a little people misunderstood what I was kind of getting at because
Yeah.
I think this is an important conversation
Yeah.
that from the beginning, whether or not they ever, with the Department of Energy, suddenly decides to stick their fingers into it and say yes because our scientists see this. My point was that they have flip flopped on this point 4 times now. Like
Mhm.
but the conversation becomes like, now it's something we can talk about. No, now that's fake. No,
Right.
now we can again. Like why we suddenly bat at that cat toy is like so frustrating to me. But the point is it's always been a valid concern about the bioweapon, like
Of
whether or
course,
not
yeah.
the BSL-4 labs, the gain of function, always, right?
Yeah.
But why suddenly we, like right now, a lot of people that are already in agreement with this, who think that it came from a lab, see this and they go, yep, now we're proven right. It's like,
Right.
why are you feel proven right? Because the Wall Street Journal said the opposite 6 months ago, or whoever
Right.
did. Like, is it right because you want it to be, or because they did something different? Why would that prove it? You see, I just don't
I
get why
think they
we-
just want to be vindicated. I think
Right,
that's really
right.
all it is.
Well, I think.
And
Okay, go ahead. Go,
sorry, but the problem with that is then you're not looking at the facts, and then you're not actually trying to get at what the truth is. What is
Right.
the underlying true story? And the reality is, it's probably none of what they're. It's neither one.
Mhm.
You know, the truth of the matter actually, I think, really implicates the military-industrial complex much more than they want to admit.
Yeah.
Mhm. I feel like there's a great opportunity to capitalize on both ends of it, where it's like you can capitalize on the beginning of promoting the fear and all the nonsense with COVID, and now that it's kind of becoming more fashionable to kind of like criticize how COVID
Right,
was handled or criticize how the mass vaccination program rolled out. Like now that's fashionable to do that. It's permissible to a certain
Mhm.
degree. Now you can cash in on this end too.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I
Yeah.
haven't been following it. I haven't followed all the details of this, but I know I sent it to both of you. George Webb's been covering the Project Veritas,
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah, yeah.
apparently
Right.
there's ties to Dr. Malone's company in Vivio.
Interesting.
Yeah, in Bovo.
There's a lot of weird
Invovio,
overlap right
something
now. I'm
like
seeing
that.
with a lot of stuff. I
Yeah,
don't know where to read it just yet.
Weirdness.
I don't know either, but I just thought that was interesting that he's making some sort of connection
Mhm.
between that and obviously the whole COVID narrative and
Mhm.
Interesting. Well, how does that connect in your mind? Like, somebody in the chat was saying that there's a new Veritas video, in fact,
Well,
and I thought maybe that was
the
related.
the kind of elephant in the room connection is the whole Pfizer leak, right?
mhm.
So, and then suddenly 2 days later, after bringing on that, right, those 2 guys were fired, and then they came back after they let go of James O'Keefe. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that
Fishy.
to me seems like the elephant in the room. I don't know. I haven't followed it closely enough to see all the details, but I've just seen very quickly that George Webb has been posting a lot of these videos, and does seem like there is some sort of a connection.
Yeah.
Full
Hmm.
circle.
Well, I mean, it's the timing of it alone, not to always just fall back on it's just to distract us from something
Right,
else.
right,
But I mean,
yeah.
think about the timing of that. Like to
Yeah.
stick your fingers in for the 4th time and be like, now it's this way again during Ohio, the COVID-19, the
Yeah.
biggest medical fraud in history. All these things are like flowing out into the conversation, and they're just like balloons. What happened to the lab? Let's talk about the lab again.
Look over here.
UFOs, man.
Seriously. Well, they've always, the powers that shouldn't be are always,
Yeah.
looking for those opportunities.
Always.
Like I'm always make this point about Vegas, which all of these are important conversations. There's something very obviously amiss with that
Yeah.
whole conversation, but there was that was one of the most obvious.
Are you
times
talking
for
about
me.
the Vegas shooting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Where there was this every like 3 weeks there was another like part of a video from one hallway, and
Yeah.
everybody would talk about it for a day, and I'm like, it's interesting, but it doesn't really give you any more information.
No.
So why does it consume the conversation? I wonder. I
They're-
don't know, but if that's what
They're
do.
doing that with January 6th.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Because you had so really very limited videos at the time, and if you were actually there, you got a snapshot, and
Mhm.
that people were actually. We were talking about this on your episode.
Yeah, but did you
Yeah.
guys know there was a January 6th reenactment here in Nashville yesterday?
No
What?
way.
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
how so
Yeah,
a
okay.
reenactment?
So I'll tell you what happened. So this is hilarious. This is hilarious.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, dude. Okay, so somebody on Telegram forwarded me a Telegram post from Ollie Alexander and the Ollie Alexander his
Oh, I
Telegram
did hear
channel,
about this,
and
yeah,
it was a casting call. Someone sent it to me
right.
because they were doing some. It didn't say in the message what it was for, but it like the message that was forwarded to me was basically Ollie Alexander looking for a male 30 plus in Nashville for a casting call. Someone sent it to me, and I had to work yesterday. It was yesterday. Otherwise, I would have applied. I would have down to see what it was or whatever. But didn't know what it was at the time, right? And then one of my friends texted me last night in this group, or texted in this group chat that I'm in, and said, whoa, I was just down. They were filming a January 6th reenactment here in Nashville. I was one of the extras, and I was like, oh my God, that's crazy, dude.
It's like a movie?
I don't know. Yeah, it was a film.
That sounds
it was a
wild.
Film, something or
He's
other. Yeah.
a really strange
Yeah.
character,
I know.
too.
I know.
Who was it again?
Ali Alexander.
I
Yeah.
don't think I know who
He
that
was
is.
the one who was.
He's like the Stop the
wasn't he
Steal
doing Stop
guy.
the Steal?
Yep, he's the main Stop the Steal guy.
Yeah, and he
Mhm.
kind of like came out of nowhere.
I know. He's totally propped up, dude.
And
I
he
don't
has, like,
trust
a
that
very
shit at
shady
all.
past.
Yeah. I don't trust.
Now I'm waiting
any
for
of
like
that.
the next thing to happen, and we're gonna be like, did they just film that right here?
Yes, exactly. Well, that was my initial. That was my first thought too. I was like, okay, Ali Alexander's casting somebody that like a 30+ male. I'm like, dude, this is a false flag. There's gonna be a false flag in
Yeah.
Nashville tomorrow, dude.
Something.
Like,
That's
I
weird.
forgot. I'm surprised I didn't send that to you, but yeah, I was like, what the heck is going on here? So
That is weird, man.
Yeah, very
I mean,
weird.
Anytime I see stuff like that, just
Yeah.
like why? So I'd like to know more about it. Like, what was the objective?
I don't know.
Right.
I'll
Was
have
it
to
just
talk
do,
to
like,
my
a
friend.
movie or
I haven't-
what?
yeah, I think it was a movie. They were filming something.
movie.
And then if that's
Yeah.
the case, then of course he's probably some wild,
And
like,
why is
violent
Ali
armed
Alexander
insurrection or
filming the
something.
movie?
Well, no, Ali Alexander's like he was like one of the main people that was in charge of like the whole January 6th
Stop
thing.
Stop
Of-
Steal.
not in like the what happened, like all the craziness, but
No,
like
but the-
organizing
Yeah.
the event, you
Mhm.
know, that
Stop
led
the
up
Steal
to it.
event,
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Nothing.
Stop
nothing
the Steal
reported about
wasn't
it.
just January 6th. I mean, it was like around the country.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
But he has a shady past, and he came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
So-
he did.
That's just very strange. Well, things like that we should pay attention to. That's another time to point
Mhm.
out that we should not be afraid to ask
Mhm.
crazy questions if you think they're
Right.
crazy, like whatever you want to call them. Like there's nothing off the table. The way
Right.
that they make you feel like you're supposed to be like, oh, we shouldn't say that one thing that people are going to call conspiracy theory. It's like that's
Right.
where you should poke into. Have the
Yeah.
courage to dive into those things, you know? I mean, on that actual note, unless you guys want to keep talking about January 6th, that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Here is something I think is interesting on this broader note about why we're seeing all of this stuff happening.
Look, they're doing a meetup today. Alexander headed to our little Nashville meetup. There you go. So
Weird.
let's go hang.
Yeah,
Let's go hang.
something's going on in
Yeah,
Nashville. Keep
there's
your eyes out
something-
for what's
yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Very, very weird.
Yeah, there's something. Something's a brewing.
This is happening all over the world actually right now. We're seeing there's a lot of anti-war
Mhm.
specifically focused on Ukraine, but this
Right.
is in France. It's just what I said first was the elitists are getting desperate. I really believe this right now, and whether
Right.
that means that we're about to win or however you want to frame that,
Mhm.
there's too much happening that they're not in control of, in my opinion. And I think that people that
Yeah.
doesn't make them feel good. That they get the images of pitchforks and torches, and it makes them feel very uncomfortable. The curtain has been pulled back. I said everything being done right now, in my opinion, obviously is about regaining control over your perspectives, your life, your livelihood. You can accept it, or you can fight for something different. Hashtag two-party illusion, hashtag no violence. That's my opinion, obviously. But here, this video, and it's in French. The bottom line is that people are screaming at Macron. Like this is Macron in the audience right here. And they're just, people are just not having it. Like the point is they love to do this because they want to make it look like they're a man of the people.
Right.
Like, you don't see that happen to Assad. Whether that's an illusion or not, I don't
Mhm.
know. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of evidence of that where he'll just wander into big crowds and people are like, yay, maybe that's fake. I don't know. But I love how they try to do the same thing and it doesn't work out for them, and they're,
Right.
these people are like, why aren't you listening to us? Like, why aren't you doing? And I just think it's interesting because they're not used to this,
Right.
in my opinion, like historically. And now people are standing up all over the place.
Yeah.
I just think that's a sign of what's happening. Another reason why we should be very on guard for what the next QAnon, Russiagate,
Yeah,
whatever
for
the next thing is
sure.
to sweep us back in under their control. I don't know if you guys.
I think there are so many of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's so many different, both from the narrative attacks as well as the different psyops that they're trying to implement.
It's everywhere. Like I keep like, what isn't fake right now? So I'm
Mhm.
starting to feel, and it's
Yeah.
hard not to see that.
Yeah.
There are a
And
lot
that-
of movements also,
Mhm.
though. I mean, the one that's just coming to my mind right now is like the Christian nationalist movement. I do think that that's kind of a plant that for a subversive attack.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's
Yeah,
hard to-
totally.
That's why it's question everything,
And
right?
like,
I
You
agree.
have to.
So many really great, like well-meaning people fall for, all of these things.
Well,
Mhm.
everybody wants the answer,
Yeah.
right? We all want the savior, even though that's what we have to train ourselves out of. Is
Yeah.
We can't be looking for the one thing or the one person, or the one bill, one president. It's
Yeah,
never
no one's
gonna
coming to
answer,
save you, folks.
Right.
Hate to break it to you.
except for you.
Yeah,
Save yourselves.
Save yourselves,
Yep.
100%.
Well, here's another example of this. This is from Wolfsned. This is just a Le Monde article. COVID-19 primary vaccination for general population no longer recommended by the French Health Authority. Like this is happening all over the place where people are rolling these things back. We saw the U.S. What do you think is going to happen with this going forward right now?
I'd be curious what their reason is there for the reasoning for it.
Oh.
I'm sure it's some like inverted thing where it's like, well, we saved everybody, or you know what I mean? There's some
right. Well,
some
more of just a
inverted
cursory
reason.
point though, like outside of like where we think this is going, you know, like, so right now we see this kind of ebbing down a little bit. Well, at least in my opinion. And I think we see like the rolling up of other things, like even just Ohio has a big focus right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, do we feel like this is going to taper down? Is there going to, what do you think? Where's the future of where this is going?
I think they're preparing for other like
mRNA.
pandemics, right?
Well,
like, you know, Marburg is one they keep buzzing about. There was one other one that I think was kind of rising. That
there's a stomach bug thing I keep seeing come up. They're like this weird stomach bug that's like super deadly or something.
I haven't heard about that.
And right. And the thing to keep in mind is that right now they're doing these amendments to the WHO is doing the amendment to the pandemic treaty and to the health accord and
pandemic accord.
Right. So I think that's really important to keep in mind when they may be, because the way trauma-based mind control works is you clamp down and then you let up a little bit. So the people have this illusion of like being past it, being over, being free, and then they come back down and clamp again. And I think that right now we're in this like release phase where people are like, oh, this is going to be behind us. You know, they're going to lift the mandates. They're not pushing these jabs anymore. And so we're on to the next. We're past this phase. So they can come back in. I mean, weren't they just doing like Event 202 and they were doing the what was the other one? Catastrophic contagion, right? Yeah. So they're doing all these war game exercises for the next one, and you know, Gates did say like the next one's going to be much more deadly.
Yeah,
so they're planting all these seeds. But in the meantime, we're seeing releases all over the place of you know, like the mandates and the pressure for the injection. So I think that's just their typical strategy of mass scale trauma-based mind control.
Yeah, well, I feel like they need to tiptoe out of the current agenda that they're in. Like right now, they've kind of backed themselves into a corner. And now that there's actually all this information coming out about like the specific COVID-19 injection, the mRNA-based technology, they need to tiptoe their way out of that, because mRNA, if they had it their way, is going to be the future of all of these things. You know what I mean? They're trying to do mRNA for like heart disease,
for myocarditis,
cancer, like for myocarditis. Yeah, so everything that's, you know, because that allows them to bypass so much testing. It's like a plug and play type platform. Like we talk about this stuff a lot. Exactly. And so it would make their jobs and their bottom line a lot better if they were to be able to roll out something like that. So they need to tiptoe out of the current narrative in order they can fully at some point roll it out across the board and have us be all like, yeah, mRNA.
Right. No, I
but again, I just want to call attention to your interview you just had with Dr. Bhakti, where it's like the lipid nanoparticles. It's like they haven't. This is like it's not even the mRNA. It's like the lipid nanoparticles.
Right.
Or he just meant not. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
like the lipid by themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
The lipid nanoparticle encasement itself is really, really treacherous.
Yes.
And this is where you know, I keep pointing to the DARPA hydrogel because that acts like, and I do really think, I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it bears repeating, but I think that this is a huge part of why the ivermectin conversation was shut down, because the DARPA hydrogel acts like a hydra parasite and it mimics that, and that's how it lodges into the cells. And I think that, you know, theoretically something that's antiparasitic, which hydroxychloroquine is as well, would be an antidote to that.
Interesting.
And I think that's part of why that conversation was so taboo.
It's a very valid point. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff, and you know, it's just your one point that, you know, there's valid conversations. Like this is the future, this is the next thing, and then it just gets dead silent during COVID. You know, and then you point at it, and you're a wild conspiracy theorist. Anybody who's not, you know, completely willfully dense can be like, well, that doesn't add up, right? Clearly, that was something. It's the same point is there's a lot of those happening, like graphene oxide. You know, I don't think we can definitively prove that it's in something being given, but I mean, I've shown, at least 15 articles, peer-reviewed science, talking about how graphene oxide specifically is like the next thing for vaccination. And then they call you a wild maniac for saying it's even possible.
There's evidence that it's in the flu shots and that has been for years.
It was now graphene oxide, hydroxide, or some variation, because I've seen a lot of these conversations.
Graphene oxide can be reduced to graphene hydroxide.
And they're both dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're both very, very dangerous. Graphene hydroxide this is what Andreas Nowak, Dr. Nowak, the one who mysteriously died 2 days after he gave that infamous speech, he talked about graphene hydroxide and how it acts as a razor blade in the blood. And he had the theory that that's why it's affecting athletes so much more, because their blood runs faster, right? It pumps harder and faster. And so the hydroxide was acting like a razor blade in their bloodstream and in their cells. But both are really treacherous.
Mhm.
And there is evidence to indicate that there is graphene oxide in the air. They're definitely doing it in biowearable like biometric clothing.
Mhm.
I mean, that's proven.
Yeah,
and
well,
they're
there's new things
marketing
for
that.
filtering water. Like it's not even
Yeah.
a secret. It's right. They're using
Yeah.
graphene oxide for new water filters and different stuff. It's all over the place. But-
If you get something that's a cotton clothing, if it's not organic cotton,
Mhm.
they can put graphene oxide into that.
Wow.
What's the real issue with that? I'm
So-
weirded out by all of it.
yeah.
But really, like, so it's in your clothing. Where's the concern there?
So there's multiple concerns. I mean, one is just
Subcutaneous.
the metal toxicity, the toxic
Right.
burden that can incur just
Mhm.
from the graphene oxide alone.
Mhm.
But then the further concern is that it does have an electromagnetic frequency
Okay.
that can be interfaced.
So now this is like the reassembling nanobot kind of conversation.
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can do that's part of how that like neural lace works. It can work through graphene oxide, can make a mesh self-assembling interface. It can do that.
Interesting.
But it can just be interfaced through frequency as well.
I guess where I'm going is
and the magnetic field.
how can it
is-
be used against you? What's the worry? Like that, if you let's say you have clothing on that's got graphene oxide, is it just
Well-
that it's dangerous for your body because of its
It's
chemical?
the,
Well,
you
that's
can
what I'm
absorb
saying,
it in
it
your
can be-
skin, right?
Yeah.
The subcutaneous.
So it can be both. It can be just the toxic burden of
Yeah.
the graphene
Right.
oxide itself, but it can also become an interface where they can remote control you.
Right. Okay,
essentially.
that's where I was going. So yeah, that's just creepy as hell. Like,
And I'm not saying I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I'm
Yeah,
saying
right.
that the technology
Possible.
exists where they can,
right.
and that's concerning.
That is
And
concerning.
I will also just add to that it's no longer a theory. I mean, many of us speculated this last year, 2 years ago, but they have now. I mean, Mass Amherst put out their study that 6G does use humans as an antenna, essentially.
God.
So
Matrix, here we come.
yeah.
Whoa.
Well, one other thing too about graphene oxide overlap is remember, I think we're all in agreement with that. How
Yeah.
serious, but the back to Bhakti's point, right, is that ultimately you don't even need I think the reason they're focused is they're trying to find why this is the problem. But you could just hypothetically not have any of that in there. The lipid nanoparticles alone, the spike protein alone,
Yes.
the mRNA alone, all these things by themselves, or just the other like glass shards and things they found in there. Those are all things that could equally cause these problems. So I
Totally.
think it's all of it together.
Right.
Like it really is such an obvious.
These, though, but to the point of how like these psyops and how these the cognitive infiltration works,
Mhm.
because now you have all these people arguing things like, well, mRNA might be just a total psyop. It doesn't exist. It's really the nanoparticle. You have people, right? There are a lot of people making these claims. I want to say a lot, but there's definitely a camp making this claim. And then there are people saying, no, it's just the nanoparticle. That's really the problem. Then there's other people saying that, it's just the nanolipid encasement.
It's like they want you to divide. Like the point is, it's all of them or one of them.
Right.
Like, why do we have to debate about it? Like the point is, nobody knows that for sure. I
Right.
would argue, other than this is like
Exactly.
a scientist who's testing, whatever.
Right.
The point is that people are choosing their one thing and they're diving into it. Like I know this could be true. I think
Right.
all of them are dangerous and all of them we should be concerned about.
Sure.
Dude, I've never heard of this. This is popular mechanics. Scientists want to use people as antennas to power 6G. I did not know
See?
about
Remember
this.
the 5G. This is the whole point, though. Remember,
Yeah.
like it
crazy.
can literally, and that's actually one of the side effects they're now seeing with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It can make your skin burn and like
Yes.
it's like a crowd control device. Essentially,
So
you turn
in
it up all the way.
Australia, when people were protesting, they literally microwaved. the
Right.
person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They just turned up the EMF.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And
they
then-
have like that's one of their weapons. It's like a big old truck
Yeah.
with a
Mhm.
big thing that can like direct. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But my worry is that they have these things all over and they don't even
Yeah.
need the truck anymore.
Yeah,
right? They
exactly.
just flip the things on that are like every
Yeah.
15
Exactly,
feet. and all of a sudden
exactly.
You're all, that's pretty concerning.
And then they just gaslight them. Oh no, it's just the hot sun. Really?
yeah, Jesus.
Wow.
Well,
that's
we've
crazy.
got a little bit, only about a minute and a half
Yeah.
left, guys, before we wrap. So I wanted to say one last thing before we talk about on the way out here is the mRNA overlap. We were just talking
Yeah.
about how that's risky in general, right?
Yeah.
We are now seeing that they are rolling out these things. Even Bhakti in the interview said
Mhm.
himself that they're already doing that, not telling anybody,
Yeah.
right? So mRNA shots for animals and
Yeah.
so on, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the interesting
And they
thing
want to put it in the
thought-
food. Don't forget
Right,
that.
well, they
Yeah.
are, right? It's
Yeah.
already in vegetables.
vertical.
So the concern is about what somebody put this.
And
this-
boring is involved. Don't forget that. But
What's
go
boring?
on. One of the Elon's companies.
Oh,
that's
of course
doing
it is.
vertical
Boring company,
farming.
yeah.
Well, I was going to say is that the point is that somebody argued this, or I think it might even be Bhakti, that the point being is that if they dump it into animals like this, they don't even need us for their money anymore.
Yeah.
They see us going, we don't want it anymore. They've already
Right.
got themselves a secondary revenue stream with all the animals. We don't even
Yeah.
look for it.
Yeah.
Like, think about how crazy alarming that is.
Yeah.
And that's why we should question all this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Straight up.
Definitely. Can we plug some stuff?
Yeah, go ahead. What you got?
What I want to do, can you pull up
The VIP Summit?
well,
was gonna shout that out at the
yeah,
end.
well, let's do that. Let's do that. But real quick, Rebels for Cause.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Good call.
Okay, you guys,
Looking forward to this.
if you're looking for a non-false flag event in the Nashville area, June 3rd. Oh, never mind. Go to rebelsforcause.com to learn more. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
Because you could show it. You could show it. Yeah.
It's already showing. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Scroll down. Scroll
Okay.
down. See, look at. Oh, hold on. Let's go up a little bit. See, it's
That's
at Stone
beautiful.
DeRosa Ranch. Okay, and then scroll a little bit further, and these are all our
Yeah, all the-
speakers confirmed. We have Alex Zek, Jay Dyer, Ryan Cristian, Dr. Ben Marble, Steve from Slow News Day.
With his big joint right there.
Yeah,
too.
with his
You're
big, he could be bringing lots of. Well, we're gonna have to tell him that it's you have to have like Delta 8, Steve. There's me. We got Faithless Town and Joseph
Nice.
Arthur confirmed with a lot more coming. I guarantee.
Awesome.
So there you go. So
All right,
rebelsforcause.com to learn more about that. It's gonna be awesome. June 3rd and 4th here in Nashville. Come camp out for the weekend with all of us.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Another great show, guys. I always enjoy doing this with you. So
Yeah,
thank you.
you want to shout out the
Likewise.
thing or?
Oh, well, yeah, well, it's okay. We already ran past a little bit. So I'll
Okay.
show it to you. We're good.
Yeah,
Let me,
we're
so
good.
let's do what was it actually? You gonna send me the link on Signal?
Yeah.
You had it up.
Meanwhile, Courtney, what's your show all about, dude?
My show, the Courtney Turner
Yeah,
podcast.
plug your stuff.
It's the Courtney Turner podcast. Courtenay
Central
Turner,
Signal
COURTENAYTURNER.com is where you can find pretty much everything. And yeah, we do long form podcasts. I have one with Ryan coming out pretty soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we have some great stuff over there, and you can find me on. You can just go to my website. You'll find all the links to my social media. And I have the show, The Right Voices. We're going to be filming here the 19th, which is the Women's Roundtable group. So
Oh, nice.
that's
I want to
coming up
join
soon.
one of those. One of
Yeah,
those at some point.
definitely. I want you to, for
Yeah.
sure. That was
Yeah,
super
well,
fun.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I'm at libertylinks.io/rebunked.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to find all the links. It's rebunked.news is the main platform, but I'm involved in so many projects now that I had to expand. So
Yeah, I know. It's like
so,
hard to keep track.
instead of Linktree, because Linktree sucks, libertylinks.io/rebunked. Check out the Unjected show this Friday at 9 p.m. It's going to be awesome.
and you can also find Rebunked on the homepage of the Last American Vagabond because he's now part of Last American Vagabond.
There you go.
And well, I'll just make sure we include it in the show notes for you guys. It's Autonomy VIP Summit on March 5th. We'll be shouting it out as we get closer to it in general.
Oh, wait here.
And as always, thanks for being here, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.